Hello, beautiful brothers and sisters. How are we doing? Welcome to the latest edition of the Mental Funkyverse Smoking Lounge. So, today it's been an interesting day. I've had very low patience today, which towards the end of the afternoon, beginning of the early evening, was basically morphed into irritability. Today was booked in to play a game called Heat, which is like a race game. It's a Formula One type game, but like sort of set in like the 1950s, 60s style race cars. That era, 60s, 70s maybe. It's a great game, really good game. It's about like engine management, literally, as the name suggests, managing the heat in your engine. As you're going around the racetrack. And, it was very busy, which was great for level up. But it meant the game stopped and started. And, I had it in my head today, we're going to get a race, maybe a couple of races in. And I wasn't really in the mood or the frame to, just be social. All the friends are there. And, sometimes I get that. And if I'd have been in a crowd where I could have gone deep, because I would have just launched into a deep conversation while we waited for whoever it was to come back and resume the game. But it's, I have gotten deep with some of the guys that were there, but it's not, they weren't there for that. And I hadn't initially turned up for that either. I turned up to race. I was there to fucking race. To race! So my patience was like thin. And there was an event later on in the evening called Nerd Night, which is like people local and sometimes just passing through give their presentations on something they absolutely nerd out about. It's based on something called Pechakucha style of giving a presentation, which is 20 slides of 20 seconds. Basically, so you get 20 slides and 20 seconds on each slide. It's designed initially for like architects and business, like project managers, to be able to get across concepts nice and snappy and fast. And it's cool, So I've given a couple of them. I gave one on autism, and I gave one on the giant trees theory of the Silicon Age of Earth. But I'm not up for it today. I was like, I just wanted to game today. That's all I really wanted to do. And if I wasn't going to be doing that, that's one of the things my patience was wearing thin on. It's like, well, if I'm not playing games, I could be. There's numerous projects and things churning around in my mind, and things that I could either be working on internally or I could be working on externally, as in, things like designing games. There's a couple of game designs I'm doing, but also, certain projects, potential projects that are in the pipeline with others. Ideas that I've been mulling over. But I was happy to put aside to spend some time just, having fun. It's important. And, tabletop games are great for that. And they are social, but they don't have to be like social. You know what I mean? It's like, play the game, have a bit of chit chat, but play the game. So, yeah. And it's funny because it got me thinking about the nature of irritability and just the general nature and concept of... because there is this idea, erroneous idea, shall we say, when you're here, low consciousness, and then, you know, that the idea is that once you expand past a certain level of consciousness, things like irritability disappear, or the quote unquote negative emotions, or emotions that are that they go away. And they don't go away. They change. Their nature changes. The form definitely changes. The way it's experienced. The contexts and build-ups, I suppose. Settings, whatever. Context is probably the best word. The context of things which lead to them changes. But that they still continue is, yeah, they do, yeah. You can still become irritated with high consciousness. However, it feels very different from what irritation was earlier consciousness. More contracted consciousness. For a start, as I've mentioned in previous videos, no suffering. So I don't suffer because of it. I'm not suffering because of irritability. In the moment, irritability is unpleasant and can be distracting. And in that moment, you know, you wonder why you choose it, and then remember you don't have to choose it, and then stop. But then it slips back in again. It's not as sharp. It's not as hard-hitting. It's at best surface deep. Never doesn't. You don't take anything personally. Nothing carries forward. So there's like a frictionlessness to it. That there's like nonstick. Nothing sticks. It's just off. Whereas before, something would hit and it would stick and it would stay, and then that's something you had to work through and let go of. It's a whole thing. Now it's just you feel the initial impact, but then it doesn't stick around. It's just okay. You would never hold on to it. Take it personally. Take it to heart. Take it to your heart. Why would you do that? And of course, you approach the well, I suppose you have more awareness of the you have more global awareness about it. Just because I am irritable, or just because my patience is thin and I am experiencing my equivalent to irritate, my equivalence to irritation. That is my problem. I have to be accountable to that. Others should not have to suffer. Others should not have to just have to deal with it. They shouldn't have to change or, dance around, or, they shouldn't in any way, shape or form feel that they are accountable in any way for what you're feeling or what you're experiencing, and should therefore not have to, navigate or be affected by. And ultimately, it's down to them to be affected by it. But I don't want, you don't want to be the source of something that they could potentially allow themselves to be upset by, angered by, whatever, affected by. Well, if they're of high consciousness, they won't be affected by it, and so it's fine. Well, but if they're not, but even if they are of high consciousness and they won't be affected by it, and it's fine, that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is you've still laid down the ground upon which the potentiality for that choice was even there. So therefore, if you hadn't come along, the option for them to be angry, irritated, annoyed, whatever, wouldn't have been there. So I have to take accountability for that which I have brought to the table, regardless of how they take it, and regardless of whether or not that is or isn't an indictment on their grasp of whatever level of consciousness they're at. The fact of the matter is, I brought it to the table, and it should not, and that's for me to be accountable to. And, it's just, it was a small slip back into the experience of just a little slap on the wrist from the universe about expectations. I've been doing really well recently on, super well on not having expectations. Because expectations, releasing and letting go of expectations is a very early lesson, really. Relatively, it's a very early lesson. It's one that takes a while to stick in, but it's one you learn early, and you get at practicing early on. The earlier you get onto it, the better. Because once you let go of expectation, then you're free to enjoy or do with whatever actually is in front of you for its own sake, rather than measured against what you thought it should or could be, could or should have been. Frees you from that. And then lo and behold, I can't remember the last time I did it. Till today. And I did it, I got up today, today's race day. I expected a couple of races. And we squeezed one out over the course of about 4 hours. 3.5, 4 hours, something like that. 2-lap race. So yeah. But it did get me at least thinking about this particular subject, which is actually quite important for those. It's something that, for those who have questions about the process, doing inner work and expanding consciousness, and you feel like you're getting the beginnings of the understandings of what consciousness expansion is, and that it is a thing, and it's a tangible thing, and it is a process, and we're all undergoing it, and it's inevitable for everyone, and This has got to happen on the individual level and on the communal and on the global level. Eventually, everyone to some degree. You have questions. Well, what's it look like? How do I know when? Does this still happen? I felt this, so therefore, does that mean I'm not as consciously expanded as I used to be? As I thought I was, you know? Reactivity is going to be is probably going to be your biggest counter, Geiger counter, indicator, metric. Early days. Early doors, early days. Your reactions. Whether you have a reaction to something and to what degree that reaction plays itself out, what form it takes, what the degree of the form it takes. So when something happens, when you hear something, you see something, whatever it is, you smell something. If and when a reaction occurs, there's no punishment, there's no, oh shit, I reacted. Oh, I'm so low conscious. Sod that. No, it's, oh, I reacted. Usually this is best done after the reaction's played itself out. And things settle, but not too long after. The closer you can catch it in the moment, the better. The closer to the moment of reaction, the better. Eventually you'll catch it as you're reacting. And then eventually you'll catch it just before. The pre-urge. You'll stop it at the pre-urge. But for now, it happens. You see it. I reacted. Okay. What was it I reacted to? Why? What was it about the thing I reacted that made me react inside? Where does that come from? And I reacted in this way. With disgust, with anger, with hatred, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the reaction is, that's the next part. Okay, well, it took this form. It was a spike. It was a sharp prick, but it's not, you know. It didn't go that deep, but it came from there. It was disgusting. Whatever. You work it out. You figure it out. You try and trace back what's the root cause of that. And often you'll find that's where you have to do your work. That's something there you have to release or integrate or come to understand, whatever. When you do it, cut it off at the root. All that goes away. And the more and more you do it, first it's always after you will react, and you'll have to dissect it once you've calmed down. And then it gets faster and faster. And you will eventually catch it as it's happening. But and then you get it to the pre-urge, the preemptive, before it even. It's like the moment before the awareness that is a thing that I would normally react to, but I'm now so aware of it that even though it's happened in front of me, I have now preempted it, and it has not been allowed to create a reaction. Now you may still have a sensation, or you will probably still have a set of emotions that are attached to it. For example, let's go with disgust. Okay, so the thing that you knew would normally make you go, oh, actually, react. Act is a key part of the word. To do something, to react. That doesn't happen now. It's preempted. It's stopped. But maybe the emotion of disgust that would have normally caused that reaction is still present. But now you are no longer reactive to it or from it because of it. So now you have space and time to decide whether or not it is actually something you need to or want to or should even act on or about, do anything about, or just ignore it, release it, move on to the next thing. Treat it with scant regard anymore. Certainly give it not the energy and the depth of connection to react to it. That's a gift of energy to whatever that thing is that causes it. So, you know, you now have the room and I have the freedom and the time to do that. And then later down the line, you won't even feel the disgust anymore. It may still be a thing that is disgusting by X whatever its standards, but you no longer feel the disgust of it. You just see it for the low frequency thing that shouldn't, should not be giving any energy to. Acknowledged and recognized, because if you see it and it's there in the experience reality, then it's part of the one and the one in the all. And if it's still part of the one in the all is still taking little forms like that, then there's work to do. There's still some work to do, tuning to do, but you don't do that by worrying over what's wrong. You tackle that by pouring everything you have into what is good, or what you know to be the aligned way, the highest path, in whatever segment or sector of life you're working within in that moment. So, yeah. It's, there's an old saying that I heard once, that a poor man has $10 problems and a rich man has $1 million problems. But they both got problems. And it's the same sort of analogy could tentatively be applied to the stages of expansion of consciousness. The things we consciously and consciousnessly wrestle with when we seek to go through the process of consciousness expansion, when we explore philosophies and cosmologies and teleologies and all of the illogies and ifes and all of them. It's at every stage, you kind of end up wrestling with the same. Don't want to say you end up wrestling with the same monster, but when you're in the denser consciousnesses, it's like you're wrestling with a monster. You are wrestling with a monster. I mean, you literally are wrestling with monsters, demons. But they only exist at that level of density. They can only affect you at that level of density, when you're in their pit with them. And as the consciousness expands, the wrestling doesn't stop. But eventually you're no longer wrestling with demons. Then you start wrestling with angels. And you start wrestling with God. And then you eventually realize the entire time you were just wrestling with yourself. At every level. But just like in musical procession, progression. You can have an E note here, and you can have an E note here, and they can be several octaves apart. Same note, different densities. So that's kind of exactly what we're looking at. And so experientially, the biggest benefit of being past neutrality, or certainly a bit further past neutrality, is that you're no longer wrestling with monsters. And then everything becomes a bit more game-like, becomes a bit more gamified. Certainly, you'll go either down the gamified route of perception of reality, or potentially the simulation route of perception of, or hyper metaphysical. So, like, heaven, hell, the religions, what the religions offer, including the New Age, which is just as much a religion, and science. Science is also a religion. It has the same hierarchical structures. It has the same, all the same hallmarks of a religion are there in science, in the world of science, especially certain branches of science. You will find the parallels. So you can chuck it in there. It's just a religion without a god, which isn't, that's only 2 steps away from Buddhism. Buddhism doesn't believe in gods. So, but anyway, the point is, once you get past neutrality, a little bit further than neutrality, and the suffering stops, you're no longer wrestling with monsters. It becomes something else. And the wrestling can sometimes feel frustrating, tedious, irritating. But they will never be extreme. You will not feel extremity. That's why it will always be within the sort of realm of these words, like the kind of intensity that you would imagine comes with the kinds of words like tedious, irritable, frustrating. Just very low level wrestling sensations, and certainly nothing you would suffer from, or for, or on behalf of, or whatever. More like the challenge that a wall gives to a climber who's chosen to climb that particular wall. The strain it puts on that climber, physically and mentally, to complete that route, to make that climb. It's a chosen level of discomfort in order to achieve or to reach for something that is being aimed for. That's the kind of sentiment that you will become the standard state of standard sort of like base state of being. Once you get past a certain bit past neutrality, the challenges will be the challenges you choose. with awareness and knowing and understanding, and so the wrestling you choose to wrestle, the wrestling that you do will be the wrestling you choose. And there will be no illusion of, oh, this was foisted upon me. No. It will be chosen intentfully, far more intentfully than it's ever been in your life. But the challenge does not stop. The point is that the challenge is there. They're just chosen by you. Consciously, instead of by you, subconsciously, through your subconscious actions, which instructed the universe to create the scenarios that came into your life. You're just turning off that back door route and you're re-channeling it through. So, right, well, that process will still continue. I will feed the universe, but this time I will attempt to feed the universe continuously through my conscious awareness of myself first and then globally. And all of the challenges that will come in will be involved with that for me as an individual, as it will be for anyone watching this as individuals. Your forms will all be unique and different and tailored for you, but we are all learning the same functions and principles. Yeah. Just like an RPG game, the challenges you face as you level up tend to rise on par with how far you've leveled up. Otherwise, it would be like, for those of you who've played RPG games, getting to level 100 and just going around killing slimes. It's pointless. It's like, there's no fun in that whatsoever. So, yeah. As you could probably tell, I took the gamification perspective of experiential reality once I popped into that place. That's sort of where my framing, a lot of my framing is sort of based, even if just linguistically for analogy's sake and metaphor's sake. It's one I enjoy and I use a lot, and it actually is useful for me for now. Okay, I think I'll draw that one to a close. I think I managed to get some more things said there than I anticipated. Don't expect. But there's no wrong with a bit of anticipation. Anticipation's general, it's open. It's a what if still. All right then, beautiful brothers and sisters. If you've watched up until now, thank you very much. Bless you. You're very kind. Please feel free to do all the YouTube things. And until the next time, be safe and be well. Thank you.